What's up, you guys? It's your boy Trippy, and I want to start out before I get into the predictions about why I started this YouTube channel. I really do like making predictions on fights and giving my thoughts and analysis and breakdowns on these up and coming fights because I love the UFC. I love the sport of fighting. I think it's the best sport on the planet, in my opinion, and simply, I just like to entertain you guys. You know, I see the comments and I see a lot of positive comments, and that really motivates me to keep going. But I don't want to be one of those YouTubers that say, can you please like the video and subscribe and all this stuff? But even if you don't want to subscribe, could you just like the video? Because that lets me know that I'm doing something right. It gives me motivation and purpose to keep doing this. But anyway, let's get right into it because there's a lot of close fights on this card. This is a very interesting card and it's shaping up to be an amazing one. So let's get started, shall we? So Islam Makhachev versus Drew Dober. So Islam Makhachev is finally coming back. His last fight was literally Khabib versus Poirier. That was a long freaking time ago. So I'm going to just start by saying this. I think Islam Makhachev has a pretty big chance of beating Drew Dober. Why? Because Drew Dober's grappling defense isn't just... I wouldn't just say that it's just safe enough for me or good enough for me to keep him safe against Islam Makhachev, because Islam Makhachev has outstanding grappling and outstanding wrestling. He could take Drew Dober down and control him on the ground. I mean, Drew Dober was controlled on the ground by Hernandez slightly, but he was controlled. And so, you know, that's pretty alarming when you're fighting a guy like Islam Makhachev. Not to mention that even if Islam Makhachev doesn't go for the grappling right away, it'd be kind of weird if he didn't, but he can hold his own on the feet with Drew Dober. He seriously can. Though I feel like Dober has probably the slightly more polished striking. Both of these guys can end it with one punch, and that's exciting to me, but I don't see a lot of just stand-in trade on the feet. It can't happen. But I just see Islam Makhachev having his biggest advantage in the grappling department. I feel like he could honestly submit Drew Dober if he wanted to. So I'm going to go ahead and go with Islam Makhachev in this fight. And I'm going to go with a second round submission. Alrighty, Dominick Cruz versus Casey Kenny. So a lot of people are counting out Dominick Cruz in this fight. They're saying he's the aging veteran and Casey Kenny's an up-and-comer. But if you look at the styles and you look at the styles alone, this is a pretty close fight. Casey Kenny likes to push a pace and to go in there and try and take your head off with these brawling exchanges. And Dominick Cruz is the anti-venom to that. He comes in with a lot of footwork and loves to make his opponents miss. But Dominick Cruz also gets into these mini exchanges where he swings with his head down. A lot of people don't talk about that. That's how he got caught against Henry Cejudo, swinging with his freaking head down. He does that a lot. But this style that he's fighting against is a style that he has seen before. And he honestly, I seen that he picked Casey Kenny, and it's because it's a style that he knows pretty freaking well. A lot of people try to come after Cruz, and a lot of people try to take his head off, and Cruz basically knows that style, if that's your game plan, like the back of his freaking hand. So just by styles, this is a close fight. But Casey Kenny can really get up on Dominick Cruz if he can utilize those leg kicks early and slow down that movement of Dominick Cruz. As we've seen in the Cejudo fight, Dominick Cruz is a little bit slow to check those leg kicks. But although I feel like Henry Cejudo is a better leg kicker than Drew Dober can definitely use those to target those legs of Dominick Cruz that has taken a lot of damage. You know, and let me go ahead and say this and get this out of the way. Dominick Cruz got finished by Henry Cejudo fair and square. I'm tired of hearing about it. I'm tired of hearing that he got robbed and all this. He got finished. The damage was real and it's not just erased or it didn't happen because he quote unquote got robbed in that fight. He did not get robbed in that fight. But anyway, back on topic. So I say that because what type of Cruz are we going to get in this fight? Are we going to get a solid version of Cruz? Are we even going to get the best version of Dominick Cruz? Because if we get anything close to that, I can definitely see him winning this fight by decision. But if we get an old and withered and quote-unquote the aging veteran in Dominick Cruz, oh, I can see Drew Dober pulling this one off. But we're going to stay optimistic here. Dominic Cruz has had a full training camp to prepare for this fight, and I can see him being fully prepared. And honestly, due to the styles, I'm going to go ahead and go with Dominic Cruz. I see Drew Dober trying to close that distance on a moving Dominic Cruz, and them getting into these mini exchanges and Cruz winning those exchanges basically for the whole duration of the fight. So I'm going to go with Dominic Cruz by a comfortable decision. So Thiago Santos versus Alexander Rakic, another interesting fight on the card. So this fight is interesting simply because it's hard to predict action-wise. It has the potential to be bombs away and freaking get everybody on the edge of their seat, but it also has the potential of being an absolute snooze fest, just like the Anthony Smith fight. I mean, it wasn't a snooze fest, but it wasn't just extremely exciting because it was an outstanding performance from Alexander Rakic, and I 100% think that he can apply what he did in that fight to Thiago Santos. Thiago Santos makes a bunch of mistakes on the feet and on the ground especially. And so I can see this is a winnable fight for both guys. Don't get me wrong. Thiago Santos, at the end of the day, can end it all with one punch. But if I'm talking about fight-wise, there's not a huge way that he could win. I don't see a massive path to victory like a lot of these guys are saying. I feel like Alexander Rakic is going to go in there, pick that leg apart. Alexander Rakic has probably the most devastating kicks in the light heavyweight division. That guy kicks like, oh my gosh. Did you see the leg kicks he used against Anthony Smith? Man, poor Anthony Smith. And I'm going to say this too, poor Thiago Santos, because Alexander Rakic is going to go in there and leg kick the crap out of him. And it's going to hurt that lead leg of Thiago Santos, boy. Thiago Santos does a lot of bouncing and a lot of footwork to utilize to bounce around that ring and kind of get your cat off guard and explode into you. But if he explodes into Alexander Rakic, I can definitely see Alexander Rakic dipping under those wild punches, going in for a takedown and controlling Thiago Santos on the ground. I can also see the fight playing in a stand-up, them trading back and forth, because Alexander Rakic can also take a big shot, but so can Thiago Santos. But you don't want to take too many big shots from Thiago Santos, if I'm honest. But I feel like Alexander Rakic is going to tear apart that leg of Thiago Santos and take away some of that power. And that leads right into my prediction for this fight. I feel like Alexander Rakic is going to do exactly that, take away that power and pick him apart on the feet. So I'm going to go with that Alexander Rakic, and I'm going to go with him winning by decision as well. And next, boy, oh boy, am I excited for this fight. This may be my pick for fight of the night. This is my pick for fight of the night, actually. This is my favorite fight on the card. I am so excited for this fight. Why? Because it's so damn even. This is an even fight. Petr Yan is so crisp with his boxing and just so solid with his stand-up. Aljamain Sterling is a little awkward and a little sloppy with his stand-up, but he is a big threat on the ground. We just seen what he did to Corey Sandhagen, and that has a lot of MMA experts scratching their head like, ooh, this is very close, because it is very close. So let's just jump right into it. So there is one big question mark, and a massive question mark when it comes to this fight. Who is going to be the ring general? Who is going to control the center of the octagon? Because I'll tell you what, whoever does has a massive chance of winning this fight. And if it's Aljamain Sterling, he will win this fight. Honestly, he will win this fight if he can go in there and establish himself as the ring general and constantly back Petr Yan up and have him extremely uncomfortable, because that's really what we not have seen much of is Petr Yan on the back foot. I want to see it my damn self. I want to see him get backed up, and I want to see how he deals with it, with the wild and sloppy striking of Aljamain Sterling, who's going to come out there really aggressive and shooting for the takedowns. Hopefully we see that, and we see Petr Yan as a champion get tested. Another thing that has people worried about Petr Yan is his ground game. So people are kind of underestimating it. I don't think it's as bad as people say it is, but we have seen him get taken down and controlled for a little bit on the ground. And that's alarming because of how damn good Aljamain Sterling is on the ground. That is alarming, but the main thing, in my opinion, on this fight is who's going to control the center. Because I'm going to say this, if it's the other way around, Petr Yan, that's a big mistake that a lot of people make when fighting him, is that they back up and let him basically dictate the pace. That is the worst thing you can do when fighting this guy. Everybody, almost all of his opponents do it. Almost all of them do it. They all back up and let him just pressure them with that slow and trying to figure out, because he's a bit of a slow starter. He tries to figure you out for that first round. He comes up with your patterns, and then he starts absolutely lighting you up with that crisp boxing of his. And if Aljamain Sterling does that, if Aljamain Sterling takes the back foot in this fight, he's going to get tuned up on the feet. Mark my words. If he becomes a back-footed fighter for this fight, he will get tuned up. That cannot be his game plan going into this. His game plan needs to be come out aggressive, make him uncomfortable, and shoot for a lot of damn takedowns, which I think he will. I think he will try his best to get Petr Yan to the ground. And if he can't get him to the ground, oh man, that is not that good of a sign for him. Because that is his biggest way, is to make him extremely uncomfortable in this fight. Because if a comfortable Petr Yan is a dangerous Petr Yan. But that's what makes it extremely interesting. I really want to see how he will react to the constant, uncomfortable, and awkward striking of Aljamain Sterling. So, who do I have winning? Man, it's really hard because Petr Yan has a big advantage in the boxing, right? But if Aljamain comes out with that pressure, like I said, it could really neutralize a lot of that. Oh, man, but I gotta pick, right? Woo! As a safe bet, I'm going to just go ahead and pick Petr Yan. I'm going to say Petr Yan. I can absolutely see Aljamain Sterling winning. I can see him choking out Petr Yan. I can see him winning by a decision. I can see it happening multiple ways. But I have a hard time seeing somebody get finished in this fight, if I'm honest. I have a hard time seeing it. I can really just see a back-and-forth war and a decision win for one of these guys. And I'm going to go with Petr Yan. I feel like his grappling is underestimated. I feel like he can stay safe on the ground while Aljamain Sterling kind of be overexcited with the pressure and the takedown attempts and kind of not gas out, but kind of lose a bit of that steam once he realizes that Petr Yan is pretty dang solid on the ground. And I feel like Petr Yan is going to back him up and go to work. So I'm going to go with Petr Yan by decision. A close decision, but a decision. Oh, and by the way, I'm going to just throw this in there just so y'all know how even this fight is. Both guys are minus 110 on the betting odds. Just going to throw that out there. So y'all might want to actually watch and stay tuned for this fight. That's why I'm so excited for it. All right, you guys. So the fight that everybody is so excited for. Literally, can you hear it in my voice? I'm so buzzing for the... Okay, not really. That's obvious sarcasm. Amanda Nunes versus Megan Anderson. So I'm giving this fight a bit of grief only because it doesn't make a ton of sense. And I know they're just running out of opponents for Amanda Nunes, but I'm going to keep this one quick. The 145-pound women's division is some crap. That is just some total bull crap. I wouldn't say that they should just erase the division, but man, they just hardly have anybody in it. I mean, they got rid of Chris Cyborg, which really bummed me out when that happened. But there's literally, it's just a wasteland. There's not a lot of girls. I'm pretty sure Megan Anderson is coming off of a loss to the girl that Amanda Nunes just turned into a human punching bag. And, they're just kind of just finding stuff for Amanda Nunes to do at this point. And, I love having Amanda Nunes around. I think she is exciting, but I think after this, man, just stop beating around the bush. Go ahead and make the Amanda Nunes versus Valentina Shevchenko trilogy fight, because that's the only thing that can test both of them, honestly, at this point. That's the only thing. It's the only thing that's left. I hear rumors of Weili Zhang fighting Valentina Shevchenko after this, and not after this, but in the future. I just think that's also kind of nuts. But let's just go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and try and give a technical breakdown of this. So Megan Anderson has power, and she's a big girl. She is a big girl. And is there a chance of her winning? Of course, it's MMA. There's always that chance, but I feel like Amanda Nunes has so many ways of beating her that I don't see a solid one for. So the gas tank of Nunes, if I can give something to Megan Anderson, is that Nunes can get winded in fights. And she did get winded in her last fight. She really did. A lot of people didn't see that because it was just so dominant, but eventually you'll also get winded at just beating somebody's ass like that. And, I see it going the same way, honestly. I see on the feet, I feel like Amanda's just going to turn her into a punching bag. In the grappling, I also feel like Amanda has a big advantage in that too. So Amanda Nunes can finish it. Amanda Nunes could win by a dominant decision. Amanda Nunes wins this fight comfortably. But if Megan Anderson can last, Megan Anderson is a big girl. She's a big girl. She can put that weight on her and make Amanda Nunes work for basically everything and gas out Nunes. I don't see her finishing. Okay, let's be realistic here. She can't finish Nunes, but she could, make it a little bit competitive. It is a pinch competitive. I'm making it seem like she's just going to go in there and wipe her, but she is. So basically, I'm going with Amanda Nunes with whatever she pleases. All right, it's time for the main event of the evening. Israel Adesanya versus Jan Blachowicz. I get butterflies just thinking about this fight. So, I already went in depth on basically both ways that these guys can win. If you haven't seen it, go back and watch that because I'm not just going to spend a ton of time breaking it down. But I'm going to say this. A way that I like to break down fights whenever I'm making a final prediction is that let's take away the knockout punch. And I know there's a big puncher's chance in MMA. I know, with those small gloves. So hear me out real quick. What is another way that Jan can win without preferably relying on that knockout blow to land? And I'm going to go ahead and answer that for you. He has a lot of ways. That's exactly how I broke down the Paulo Costa fight for Israel Adesanya, and how I basically knew he was going to do that to Paulo Costa is because everybody's like, oh, Paulo Costa's going to knock him out. But what's the other way that Paulo Costa can win? He doesn't have a lot of other options outside the knockout, and it's hard to even land on Adesanya. So that was a gimme for me. But this fight is interesting because Jan Blachowicz has a big chance of winning. Hear me out. If he can make this an MMA fight. An MMA fight, not a kickboxing match. He cannot go in there and make this a kickboxing match. If he can make this an MMA fight, this is a winnable fight for him. If he can go in there and mix up the takedowns with the boxing, with that slow pace that he has, and honestly try and take him down and mix it all up with the leg kicks, the kicks, and everything that Jan does. He does everything with power, if I'm honest. He can really bring it to Israel Adesanya, because Israel Adesanya we all know how he's going to fight. Outside, kicks the leg, kicks the body, jab. And yes, that is a boring way of fighting, but he can also counter Jan Blachowicz if Jan isn't careful. Jan needs to patiently hunt down Adesanya and track him down. If he plans on landing meaningful shots in this fight, he needs to be pretty patient. He can't just go in there and try and take Izzy's head off. We've seen what happened when fighters try to do that. We also seen the other way around when fighters just do not go for Israel. They wait for him to make a mistake, and the mistake never happens, and they just end up getting basically turned into a piñata for his leg kicks the entire time and his body kicks. If Jan wants to turn into a human piñata, then go ahead and do what Paulo Costa did. Just go ahead and what Yoel Romero did. Just go ahead. Do that. But if Jan brings the fight to him in a very intelligent manner and mix it up, he has a strong chance of winning this fight. But if Israel Adesanya can establish his game plan, which is very, very it could happen. It could happen. He could go in there and make this his style of fight and pick apart Jan Blachowicz, target that lead leg, kick that body, jab, and counter him the entire fight and make him miss and frustrate Jan into making a massive mistake. This could be over mid-fight. I'm going to say second or third round. But do I see that happening? Jan doesn't make just a ton of mistakes. Yes, he did make a massive mistake when he fought Thiago Santos, and he ended up getting KO'd bad for that one. But are we really going to sit here and compare the punching power between Thiago Santos and Israel Adesanya? I mean, come on now. I know there's some Izzy fanboys out there, but come on, man. Let's just, let's live in the real world real quick. But Adesanya has extreme precision. He is very accurate with his shots, and I know that. But Jan Blachowicz is intelligent, man. He's going to go about this intelligently. I don't see a reckless Jan Blachowicz in there. If he comes in there reckless, I'm going to think about the guy's mental health, honestly, because I would think that he snorted a line of coke before he ran out there. If he comes out there extremely wild and weird, that's not going to happen. But if it does, that'd be kind of crazy, right? So, enough being said, who do I see winning this fight? Declaring your winner. And still, yes, you heard me. And still, I'm going with Jan. I'm going with the upset. Yes, I have a big chance of eating my words because it could just turn into a classic Israel Adesanya contest. But you know what? I'll take the risk. I can really see Jan winning this fight, you guys. I can really see it. He has worked blood, sweat, and tears to win that title, man. The guy has bounced back. He's seen it all. He has seen it all. And people tend to forget Adesanya isn't young in the world of fighting, but he has not had that long of career in the world of MMA. He hasn't. He really hasn't. He's been in the UFC, I think, almost 3 years. There's not, he hasn't had that much time.